And I'd like to welcome everybody once again to the Buffalo History Channel as we are in our fall 2025 season. We're 5 years strong right here on the Buffalo History Channel. I'd like to thank everybody for their continued support of this platform. Want to give a shout out to the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library and the uh, at the Central Library, as well, especially Heather Green and the good people that work there. For we just ended a great season of Buffalo Stories film screenings with different segments that are here on the Buffalo History Channel that people can go see live and in person inside their ring of knowledge. And we've had a great several months there. And this yesterday, as a matter of fact, we ended it with a celebration of Buffalo's Black media. Yeah, we had an experimental film chronicling the history of Black media in Buffalo, going all the way back. We cover all three areas from print, radio, and television, going all the way back to the 1960s. And we talked about the Criterion, we talked about the Challenger, we showed some of the legendary personalities that appeared on the radio as well as on television. I know Sandy White and Kamal, they were a part of the presentation, and they attended the event as well. And I heard got a lot of good feedback, so I'd like to thank everybody for checking that out. Now, you see her. You see who I got on. That's right. Got one of the legends of the community here, Betty Jean Grant. Now, I have to tell you, you know her, of course, as she's been a politician. She's been a community activist. You also know that she's also been, before all of that, she was a business owner in the city of Buffalo. And to give you even more backstory, she opened up her and her husband opened up their business, Grant's Variety Shoppe on East Ferry. And I happened to have grown up in that neighborhood around that same period of time. I was one of the many kids that came to her store, not just her store, but all along the East Ferry Strip. There were countless corner stores that were Black owned and operated. And I wanted to have her on because I really wanted to kind of do a little bit of a deep dive into that, and just into that history of all those and the impact of all of those stores when they were owned by African Americans. We're gonna start there. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Betty Jean Grant to the Buffalo History Channel. Betty, welcome.
Thank you so much, Doug. Just a great pleasure to be able to reminisce about the old days, the days that when you were a child and I was a younger entrepreneur on East Ferry Street. So I'm just so happy for you to invite me here to talk about it.
Absolutely. So let's start. I always like to start from the beginning. We know that you're not originally from Buffalo. Tell us where you're from and what brought you to Buffalo.
Well, I'm originally from Brighton, Tennessee. Excuse me for the noise. It's a little town about 17 miles west of Memphis, Tennessee. I was born and raised there, and it was at that time called Cotton Country. So I did a whole lot of picking cotton and picking vegetables and a lot of things just to survive, just to maintain. With my family of 16 children, my mother had 16 children. I'm the fourth from the oldest. Three did not survive into adulthood, but I'm the oldest of three that she gave birth to. I came to Buffalo when I really came to Chicago after graduation from high school in 1966. And I spent 2 years there. In 1968, I went back to Tennessee and got hooked up with a boyfriend who I had in grammar school and high school. And I was able to reconnect, and he wound up coming to Buffalo and working at General Motors, and I wound up following him. And about 3 months after I got here, we were married, started raising our children, worked at VA hospital, and I loved that job, Doug. I loved taking care of the veterans. I loved because at that time, Agent Orange was a big problem that they had not get reconciled, that it was causing the veterans the problems that it was, sort of like East Side Parkway Coalition, but we'll talk about that later. So I worked at VA hospital until 1980 and decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, open a store, because we had acquired a property that had a vacant storefront, knew absolutely nothing about working at a store, but I decided I'd give it a try. So my husband and I, he took a job at General Motors, and we had three children who helped to work in the store. We opened in 1980 at 1085 East Ferry Street, which is not the same building we are in now. That building now currently is home of Gianni's Pizza and chicken wings for those who know about East Ferry Street and Gianni's. We sold the building to him about 10 years ago. But I stayed at 1085 East Ferry Street from 1980 up until 1994. Well, we opened two stores. In 1994, we opened another store at 1055 East Ferry Street. We still had the one at 1085, but in 1996, my husband decided that we would just have one store. So we combined the operation of the original store, into the one at 1085, which is where I am today. 45 years later. And it's not doing as well as it could be because there's a lot of competition on the street. In fact, here's between Grider and Bailey, there's about 9 stores in that small length of space. And you can't make money if you got so many people saturating the market. So what happened was I said, but last year I was going to close around last year, but I said, you know what, if I can make it to 2025, that'll give me 45 years in business. And I was really aiming for the 45 years. And so what I did, July 5th, 1980, I'm sorry, July 5th, 2025 was the 25th anniversary in business. But July 6th, I couldn't close that door, Doug. I could not just sit home, not open that store. So I'm still over there. I'm still over there. Sometimes I go there just for a different, serene piece of space. Of I don't get that many customers, but just to be over there and reminisce, and be over there to be in that surrounding and be in there when people do come in. Because sometimes they see the store open, they do come in and visit. But as for a money maker, because the oversaturation of deli stores, I think that probably within the next couple of years, I will be closed, or I might just rebrand myself, Doug. I might just see what the community needs. It does not need a corner store, neither mine nor anybody else's. And I think that for those individuals who want to go into business on that strip or anywhere in Buffalo, look, see what's out there. See what there's a lot of, and don't go into that market because you're going to be competing for a smaller piece of the pie. And like I said in my column, if you read this week's Challenger, which I write weekly, I said that we have an oversaturation of deli stores. What we need to do is see what the community wants. We need a meat store. We need a fish store. Maybe, a couple of bakeries and shoe stores and clothing store. I can't even buy a pair of shoes in the city of Buffalo, not just on the east side of Buffalo, but in the whole city of Buffalo. So that store on East Fair Street is my heart. And you guys who came through, all of you, I consider you my East Side, East Ferry Street babies. I used to tell, um, be your surrogate mother, watch out for you. And, in my store, I didn't have no hanky panky. You couldn't do certain things in that store. You had to behave, or you would politely ask to leave. And I want to
Mm.
say, in the whole 45 years that I've been there, I've been in that store many times by myself. I have never been disrespected by a child, or an adult the whole time I've been there. There's been, sometimes, well, Miss Grant, you're not fair or whatever, but I've never had any kind of physical or any kind of really deep verbal conversation with anybody. I was very firm, but I was also very, I said, accommodating. And if I could listen to your side of the story, and if it could be feasible, reasonable, then I always change my stance, try to meet you halfway. So it's been a joy for those 45 years being there. And hopefully, if I can just sit there and think about what that community needs, and maybe you'll see me with a different sort of a store in the coming future. 'Cause I'm not giving up, and I don't know what the word retirement means. I retired from politics in 2017, sat here as 5, 6, 7 years, and decided, because of the things that I see not being done, I decided to jump back into the ring this year. But I know that's another conversation for you later on. But I'm just so happy to be here, saying that Grass Variety was treated very well by the community. They were our position, our uh, um, store was very well respected by the children coming in, and nobody misbehaved. There might be a couple of loud noises now and then, but no fights. no harsh word, and I didn't allow anybody to bully anybody else.
Okay. Now, going back to the way I remember it, as I said earlier, there were plenty of black-owned stores, particularly up and down in the neighborhood, up and down that East Ferry strips. Specifically speaking, at the corner of where I lived. I lived over on Northumberland, and we had
Mhm.
the one I went to mainly was Jim's Deli, which was at the
Right.
corner of Cornwall, which is right around the corner from where we lived. There was
Absolutely.
further down the street, there was Mr. Reed's store,
Yeah.
Reed's Deli.
Yeah. He was closer to me, Mr. Reed.
And I know further down the street, which I didn't go to rarely, a lot, probably almost never, was across from the projects, um the
Bus
bus
stop
stop
deli.
with Mr.
Right.
Peoples. I didn't go down there too much, didn't wander down that way too much, but I was between Mr. Reed's store, your store, Jim's Deli. Of course, I forgot what the name of the store across from, directly across from, right on the corner of Montana. I forgot what it was called because it had different owners at different times. But did you have a relationship with
Right.
any other, or did you all have did you guys network with each other? Did you have a relationship with each other in those days?
Well, no, we didn't, and that's one thing that I think that had we had a better relationship, we'd been able to hold on to our stores a little bit longer. We would be able to advise those who sold that maybe it might be not be in the best interest for where we didn't talk about generational wealth then. We talk about it now. Maybe a
Right,
way of having generational wealth is leave those stores in the family. If you find out that you really could not doing well, or you working two jobs, which a lot of the store owners were, that you just mothball the store until somebody in your family, somebody want to open it. But because of the time that Republic Steel had closed and Bethlehem Steel was closed, and we had people coming in from Lackawanna who work in Republic and Bethlehem Steel, the Arab American community, and so they came. And when they came with money. They came with a proposition that we can give you cash for your store if you will sell. And so when that happened, some people bought into it. I know Jim did sell. Miss Ree and I had made a commitment we were never going to sell, and so by
right,
us not selling, they found a way. The Arab community merchants found a way to supersede us by open around us, next door to us, up and down the street. So we're at a place where you just had Best Stop Deli, my store, Jim's Deli, and the other store, which was four. You had five different stores open on the corner of Kerr Street, open on the corner of Goodyear, open I think on the corner of Carl Street, and one is
right.
on Bailey, and then one on Wendy. So, make a long story short, we were not when we didn't sell, and we were very, very much solicited to sell. Doug, I remember coming in after I found out Jim had sold his store. A guy coming in and said, "We'll buy your store. We pay cash for it." And I said, "Well, I'm not interested in selling right now." He said, "We pay cash." And I said, "No." He said, "We. How much you want for it?" I said, "Well, how much you think you can give me for it?" He said, "We'll give you $95,000." And I said, 95,000. And this is in 1984. I said,
Mhm.
$95,000? Come on. He said, "Yeah, we'll give you $95,000. And one little voice said, "Take the money, take the money and close." But another one said, "You know what? You're doing well here. You're not really want to sell. Your children might want to open a store," which they did not right now. I found out. Probably need to keep it. So I said, "No, no, thanks." And so I didn't sell. Miss
Mhm.
Reed didn't sell. We were very committed to the very end. Bus Stop Deli didn't sell as well. Of course, Mr. Reed was shot in his store during a robbery that only netted the killer $20, less than $20. He was killed because of a robbery in 1997, I believe. 1996, he was killed. That kind of gave me pause right there that maybe I should close the store. And my enthusiasm kind of won a little bit, but my husband said we were going to keep the store going. And then, so with Mr. Reed gone and Jim has sold his store, only thing left was Bus Stop Deli and I. A Bus Stop Deli, Mr. Bill Peoples, he worked that store, and he had the barbershop as money and the liquor store. So he was not that beholding to or rely on the money from the store to make a living, to make a profit. So he was able to stay a little bit longer. Because I had gone into politics and my husband had worked at General Motors, I was able to keep the store going, even when they put more stores there. And their policy was that if you don't sell, fine, we'll get the next building, vacant building next to you, and we just open a store. That's what they did. They opened a store at the right across from me at the corner of East Ferry and Moselle. They opened a store at East Ferry and Kerr. They opened a store at East Ferry and Carl. They're going the other way to open a store at East Ferry and Goodyear, East Ferry and Wendy. And so when you didn't sell, they kind of force you out of business by surrounding you. And I was surrounded. I felt I was a POW. I felt like I was a POW because I got all these stores around me, and they was very intent on putting me out of business because when I went to the food distributor, Trippy Foods, that sells the food that to be sold in those stores, the distribution center, which we don't have anymore. And so that's another way why I advise people to go into open a store right now because we don't have any distribution center unless they Arab American owned. And sometimes they can get kind of quirky and they can say, well, we're not going to sell to you or whatever. But anyway, I was going to Trippy Foods to get my stuff, and all of a sudden, I was in line behind an Arab store owner, and he said, okay, I'm getting a discount today. And the cashier said, okay, yes, yeah, you can get a discount, fine. And I'm saying to myself, well, what discount are they talking about? What discount do this distribution center gives to people that I don't know about? So I sit there and listen and I watch, and he gave her a card, and he said, thank you very much. So when my time to get waited on to get cash out, I said, oh, okay, I want the discount too. She said, what discount? I said, discount you just gave the man in front of me. You said something about a discount. He got 10% discount, but the same thing. Oh, no, she said, you had to belong to the Arab American Association in order to get the discount. I said, Arab American Association. Well, how can I join? She said, well, just call them and say you want to join, but you have to be a member of that to get the discount, which is clearly discrimination. That is based on a party affiliation or club affiliation. It should be illegal. And so when I got back home, I called them, the Arab American Association, and asked to become a member. And they said, no, you have to be of Arab descent. So I wasn't of Arab descent. I couldn't get the 10% discount card. So I went back to Trippy and I told them that I'm going to sue because you're treating children based on ethnicity, which was boiled down to differently by them not being an Arab American. So then they stopped the discount for everybody. Instead of giving it to me, they stopped the discount for everybody. And then I had a situation too that I had my milk and orange juice delivery, who had been delivering for me for years, started passing by the store, bypassing the store. And so I caught him at the store on the corner. And I said, wait a minute, what's the matter? How come you're not stopping here? I can't get my milk. I can't get my juice to sell. What's going on? He said, well, my boss told me that not to stop here. And I said, not stop here? What'd you tell me not to stop here? He said, I can't stop here anymore. I can't stop. I can't go in detail, but I can't stop. And so I found out that some of the Arab owners at that time had told them that if they allow me to get my merchandise from them, that they were going to join together and they were going to really kind of boycott this distributor so that he would lose all his business if he serviced me. And so that was kind of the cutthroat things that was going on in the late 1980s, mid 1990s in order to force me out of business. And so now was it the milk and juice man? There's also the bread people. There's also the Lay's potato chip man. Now here I am sitting here in my store looking out the window. I see the Lay's potato chip truck going by, stop at the store next door. And so I said, well, how come you're not stopping here? Well, we have a criteria that you have to buy a certain amount of chips every week in order for us to do the service. If you don't do that, we can't service you. And I said, well, why is that? You're going across, you're passing by my store, you're not going out of your way any kind of miles or steps. You can just stop the truck, give me a stop, and keep on going. And so they said no, but in order to get your Lay's potato chip, you have to get them through the mail. I said, wait a minute, getting Lay's potato chips through the mail? They said yes. So what I had to do was call an order in, and they would give the order to UPS, and UPS would stop by with 4 or 5 boxes of potato chips, and that's how it was serviced by Lay's potato chip. And so then we had the situation when at that time I was selling cigarettes, don't sell it anymore, but at that time I was selling cigarettes, and so I found out a lot of people was going there because cigarette was a little cheaper there. And I said, okay, you know what I do is I'll sell them 5 cents cheaper here, so you stop here because I need the business. And so with 5 cents cheaper, and then they stopped coming. I said, "What? How come y'all not coming?" Reduced my cigarettes. Oh, they reduced theirs too. I said they did, and they said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, okay, fine. I reduced mine again." So I reduced it another 5 cents, and they reduced their another 5 cents. And so it was like this 5 cents bidding war of going down until I got to the point. I said, "Oh no!" I said, "Go any lower, I must give it to them at the same price that I had paid for it, and I got to pay my workers here, and I have to." Uh, Pay for electricity and I got to pay for the stuff. I said, it's not worth it. So I just stopped it right then. And so they finally wanted war. But by me not needing income from the store, the corner store, to subsidize my household income or subsidize my expenses at home, I just stayed there more, really longer than it was economically feasible to do so. But it was more of me being hard headed, not allowing them to chase me out of business, not selling the business to them, and not letting them for me to show black people that they can't open a store. And I think that's one of the main reasons I stayed after it wasn't becoming profitable is I want to show black people that you can own the building, you can buy a building, you can open a business, you can own a store if you would work hard enough and persevere. So I refuse to allow them to chase me out. I think Mr. Reed and Mr. Peoples, who wound up, dying before he closed sold his store. I think he and I were just from the South, and it's that mode of you can't chase us out of our own community, and I refuse to let them chase us out. But right now, if you look at the community, Dud, I don't know whose community it is. Is it the Arab American community? Is it the African American community? Is it the Bangladeshi community? It's really when we say community, what are we saying? Because if you look at economically, community. If you look at home ownership, we still got the edge, but how long will we have that edge?
Right.
If you look at the educational community, I would even talk about that. So even the recreational socialization community, we're lacking on that as well because when we have um, recreational center at community center closing at 4:30 on an evening and close all day Saturday and Sunday when our kids are not in school but need that community resource and support and sanctuary. I call it community center sanctuaries for our youth. When they're closed in the afternoon, when our kids need them the most, and when they're closed on weekends, what are we telling our children? They're not important enough that will have a place for them if they can't, go home to certain hours. And I've heard that some kids are on the street because they can't come home before a certain hour because when the mother doesn't trust them home by themselves when she's working, or she might have a boyfriend and there might be some conflict between the boyfriend and the child, so the child stays out until the boyfriend leaves.
Yeah, one thing about that always stood out to me because I was right now presently. I work for the post office, United States Postal Service. I'm a letter carrier out here in
Right.
the DMV Maryland area, and in my route I have a ton of businesses. I have auto mechanics. I have construction companies, and I also deliver to warehouses that distribute food,
Right.
and they're owned by immigrants. And then again, out here, there's plenty of immigrants from all different backgrounds out here. And I would deliver the mail to a lot of the wholesalers, and I would just there are many times I would look around and they have food in there and different things in there, and I would wonder to myself, what maybe if we had some black wholesalers, that would what type of a difference would that make? And so when you mentioned trippy foods, I guess that didn't occur to me that I guess I used to wonder, were there ever any black wholesalers in the city of Buffalo?
You know what? There was no black wholesale when I opened in 1980. I
Mhm.
use it when I go to Trippy Foods for the grocery part of my merchandise, and I'll go to the Regal Sales, which service a lot of the movie theaters. When they had the drive-in movies, they on Harlem Road in Cheektowaga, and I'll go there for my candy and for my tobacco and my other products. So those were the only two that I had patronized. And I think too that we have to be careful if we're going to open stores, because if you don't have a distribution center and you have people with that unwilling to sell to you, you are not going to be able to be successful. That's why Buffalo does not have a profitable wig store. I know that there was a store open, a hair store open on Fillmore. It lasted less than a year.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Jackson. I
yeah,
knew that.
they were very professional. That was a beautiful place, very well stocked. But I knew going in that they wouldn't be successful, because I knew I had tried to sell weave supplies in the 1980s, and I had a little small corner, but I couldn't do like Central Park Plaza had the biggest one, and everybody was going. But now today in Buffalo, you got about 8 or 9 of them, and 5 or 6 of them on Bailey Avenue. And what happens? They have a direct connection to New York City, who has direct connection to China or Taiwan. But when blacks don't have the connection, and these people who open our stores, selling our weaves, are not going to give us that connection. And so, if you're going to open a store, before you open a store, see where your supply is going to come from, who's in charge of the supply, and if it's a tailored, I hate to say tailored, but if it's a tailored immigrant that's already in business, Vietnamese and the Chinese and Vietnamese are doing the hair, Arab American doing the hair. If you have or a group is already locked into that, it's going to be almost difficult for you to be successful. That's why I said in my article, this week's Challenger, that if you plan on opening a business, be sure that you search around and see how many of those businesses in a vicinity, and make sure that you get a business that you will be successful. I wouldn't advise anybody to open a deli store in Buffalo. I'm just going to be honest with you, because I know that once you get it fully stocked, you have to rely on Best Buy, or not Best Buy, but Sam's or BJ or Dollar General or the Family Dollar to stock your stores. And that's what a lot of people are complaining now. I saw the Arabs at the Dollar General, and they buying stuff for $1. They go to the store and sell for $3. And that is because, number one, the store, Dollar General, prices are cheaper than what a distributor would sell to a store owner. So you open a store and you want to go to a distributor, you might pay $1 for just a jar of mayonnaise. You could go as a customer to Dollar General and pay 50 cents for a jar of mayonnaise, and that's half what you pay a distributor. And that's why they go, because they can go shop at a Dollar General and Family Dollar and get stuff cheaper than they could go into a distribution center, even the ones that are owned by them.
Okay.
And that's why
I
you see
want
so many of them at these deli stores. I mean, I'm
to.
sorry, at these discount stores.
Okay, I want to transition now from the entrepreneurship. You got into politics, and I one thing I can remember, the first time since growing up in the neighborhood that I in the old neighborhood that I saw you again. It was in the summer of 1996. I'm sure you don't know it, but it was the summer of 1996. It was incidentally at Charlie Fisher's Community Voice convention at the Canisius College Kessler Center. He
Hmm.
had his convention there, and you were one. I think you were one. I think you were one of the participants. I'm not sure. I think you either that or you might have been sitting in the audience. I think you were working for one of the politicians at the time.
Yeah,
I'm not
Beverly Gray.
Beverly Gray, and
Yes.
that's when I saw you. Like, that's Miss Grant.
The Honorable Betty Jean Grant. Those re-elected,
This will be a new council for the year 2000. I'll ask each of you then please to raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, and state your name, solemnly swear I will uphold the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, the state of New York, and the city of Buffalo, and will faithfully discharge my duties as a council member of the Common Council of the city of Buffalo, according to the best of my ability. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, your new council.
And then I saw that you got involved with politics. Then I would read about you starting to run for office on the Common Council and then the Erie County Legislature. Talk to our audience about what got you into politics and take us through your journey with that.
Okay, what got me politics was my activism, Doug. Even when I had the store in the 1980s, I was able to take left eye and look at the community outside of my store and see what was going on there, what's happening there, what the children were doing, and what the parents were doing, what's happening in Buffalo. And I saw a lot of disparity, and I saw, how the Arab America had really kind of bamboozled, not bamboozled, but kind of overrode the community, for lack of a better word, and was taking a lock on our community, allowing the young misdirected youth, I won't call them nothing but misdirected, to stand outside their stores and sell their pharmaceutical stuff that they shouldn't have sold. And I thought that was really aiding and abetting. It was not really helping the community because they gave those youth an outlet and a place, a safe place, um, that they could go out there and sell the drugs. And so I started writing about it. And then I joined Grassroots through Clarence Lott. He asked me to run for committeeman. I said, "What the heck is committeeman?" He said, "Well, that's the first level part of being elected official, politician, and what that committee person does, they're the eyes and ears for the council member that's elected or the mayor that's elected." That was supposed to be done, but that doesn't happen anymore. That's not the way it's happening today. And I said, okay, I'll consider this. I ran for committee person, and committee people simply supposed to go down his where he's elected, two streets he's elected to represent, and see what the people want, and then bring that to the council member. And I said, well, I can do that. And so I ran for committee person, won the election. Um, I ran, in fact, I ran on East Ferry Street because I was known in that area. I won there, and I surely transitioned over to the University District. And then I joined Grassroots, and I met Beverly Gray, this little lady who was so energetic, who say she could fix the city, and she wants to run for council member at large. And so Grassroots organization that we belong to said, no, you shouldn't run. You shouldn't run. She said, I'm going to run. I'm going to run anyway. And so she ran. At that time, Cliff Bell had retired, so the seat was vacant. So she ran for an at-large council member seat that had been um, uh, occupied by Clifford Bell.
Mhm.
And people said, oh, she don't have a chance. And so Grassroots didn't endorse her. They endorsed a nice young gentleman who came from a very esteemed family, Richard Meadows, the Richard Meadows Jr., the Meadows family. He got the endorsement from Grassroots, even though one of their members, Beverly Gray, was a member in good standing. They didn't support her, but she didn't let that deter her. So she got me and about six other Grassroots people who went with her. And she said, well, I'm going to run and I'm going to win. We said, how's she going to run and win? She done run the whole city of Buffalo. And she had a car that stopped every 3 miles. She would get the car and stop and get the car and stop. So we said, well, how's she going to get to South Buffalo? And how's she going to win South Buffalo? How's she going to win North Buffalo? And she said, well, don't worry about it. I'm going to get it. And so we were driving to South Buffalo and North Buffalo. And she wound up winning the election. She wanted to win the election, and everybody was so shocked, but the black community was so elated. And then,
I
unfortunately for
remember.
her, yeah, she served one term, and then she got reelected. And during her second reelection, she ran for mayor she was unsuccessful. And I think one reason why she was unsuccessful is that was the time we had 9/11, 2001, I think it was, or
Yeah,
2003. Yeah, whoever,
2001.
what, yeah. And so they stopped there. She was running for mayor of City Buffalo, and the exit poll had her ahead. According to people who were at those polling sites, the exit poll had her ahead. And so she wound up, because they canceled the election because of 9/11, had it 2 weeks later on a Thursday. People who had voted for her did not go back to the polls and re-voted because that vote didn't count. You had to get re-voted. And so she wound up losing the election. So anyway, during that time, I had decided I wanted to run for University District Council member. And Kevin Heffer, who was a conservative backed by the Republican Party, was the council member. And I said, wait a minute, university is majority African American, and we would need representation of African Americans. Because at that time we only had Ellicott and we had Maston as council members for the district. And I said, well, I'm going to run for it. Well, I ran for it, and because of how politics get so dirty, I got betrayed by grassroots. I'm just going to put it out there. And they were able to put me in a position that I wound up losing the endorsement from the Democratic Party. And it was very traumatic because I had no politics, and I didn't know that people who, profess to support you, and you're in the same party. And I should have known from the Beverly Grace saga what was happening. That I decided to run 2 years later. So I lost in 1997, but I ran for election to that seat in the University District, 1999. Ran with 8 people and $4,000. People said, "Oh, she ain't gonna win. She's not known." But I started walking the streets in April, and I walked the streets, and then Eve called me. Said, "Hi, Betty Jean Grant. I see you out there every day out walking, and I see you when it's raining. You got your umbrella. You walking. I see you when it's hot. You walking. I see you when it's cold. You got your coat on walking. You know what? You remind me of me, so I'm gonna help you." So he endorsed me. Didn't give me any kind of financial support, but kind of endorsed me as the person that he wanted to see in that seat in the university district. So I won, probably with a lot of his support. I won that seat. That I ran for reelection, and I lost. And I won the reelection. Then the second reelection, I was running for a third term. I kind of got bamboozled by people who say, "Oh, she's a racist. Betty Jean Grant's racist. She's spending all her time on Beta Avenue, and she's not taking care of Staring Avenue, and she's over there on the Kenfield Langfield project, and she got other areas on West Side of Buffalo in the district that she's not taking care of. So she's a racist. She don't care about black people." And so I was very disappointed because that was spread by my black opponent, and they knew that people sometimes are divided by race. And I tried to tell people I'm simply over on Bailey because that time they had the problem between the Bailey Avenue posse and the Kenfield Langfield, what they call themselves. It's like a gang kind of vision. So I was over there, and I put my district office there to be present so that when people see the police car come up and down the street, they're less likely to be engaged in a street fight. So by me being over there, I was able to get some support from the E District Police Station, which was down the street at Kenfield Langfield. So based on that, I lost the election because people thought I was a blatant racist, and I just said, "Okay, we'll just take these lemons and make lemonade." So the following year, there was a vacancy on the school board, and I said, "Well, I'm going to run for that." Well, the fact is, Antoine Thompson had encouraged me to run for it, and he said, "You can run for it." I said, "You know what? I'm at the just at the just lost the election, and I don't know if I should jump back in so quickly or not." And he said, "Go ahead, go ahead." So I went ahead and ran for the school board, and I won the school board election. I served 3 terms there, representing the Ferry District. My sadness is that I was not able to get the superintendent and the school board members, which we, clearly African American kind of ran the school board then and now. Um, that were not able to keep Seneca Vocational School as a vocational school. I know that everybody was focused on Regents exam and academia, and everybody would need to have the academia, but I said we also need to have a trade because everybody's not going to go to college or they're not going to go into the educational field. Give them something they can use their hands. You have a lot of millionaires that went to Seneca Vocational. They went to other area of aeronautics. They went into car repair or even open their own auto shop. And I said, so this is a good place to be. So I was very sad I was not able to keep Seneca Vocational as a vocational high school. And now, as 10 years later, everybody's talking about vocational schools the way to go. They are the way to go. They always should have been because everything we had, like the LPN program, we had the nurses program, we had the car repairman, we had programs that is now part of BOCES. But Buffalo Public Education got rid of the programs, and BOCES picked them up, and then BOCES is doing very well with it. So sometimes we can um, shoot ourselves in the foot without anybody else helping. And I ran 3 years, 3 terms for the school board, and then the vacancy happened on the legislature, Erie County legislature, when Crystal Peoples Stokes, she went to Albany. Damone Smith filled her position, and then Damone later came back to City Hall as a council member when Antoine Thompson won the Senate race. And so it was like some kind of a musical chair situation. So I ran for the legislature. Oh, and I was appointed by the committee people for the legislature. And then that following November, I ran for the seat and I won it. And I served 4 consecutive terms until I decided in 2017 that I would throw my hat in the ring and run for the mayor's race. But before I ran for the mayor's race, I got to go back to 2012 when I was in legislature. I ran for the Senate. If people didn't know that, I ran for the Senate in 2012. And I won that seat, Doug. You can't convince me I didn't win the seat because we had 139 votes left on the table that they didn't count. They stopped the count for 2 weeks. That's a they meaning the Erie County Board of Elections. They stopped the count for 2 weeks. Then come back and said, okay, we got to count quickly now because we got to give those veterans a chance to vote for their senator. So we got to count these votes real fast after they had stopped for 2 weeks for no particular reason. And so what happened was we was working against the clock. When the clock deadline of October 24th came, we had me down by 139 votes, and we had 400 votes still on the table left to be counted. They came from the east side of Buffalo, where I was winning 4-1. So you tell me who won that race. And then I found out now, Doug, that there's going to be a situation, and just listen to the news. There's going to be a situation where we're going to find out that during that 2012 election and the Board of Election count, guess what happened? They forgot to count the Madison District absentee ballot. All those folks who voted absentee in 2012 in the Madison District votes were not counted.
Mm.
Now, this is a shocker because there was more than 139 people that was voting absentee in the Madison District in 2012. That was an election for the presidential race. That was a high-end election. And so you tell me, why would those votes for the Madison District absentee ballot not be counted? Why would they put aside and then not put into the pot and count all the votes? You know why? Because I was winning the Madison District 9-1. So it was a race that was stolen in broad daylight. It was stolen by 2 different ways, stopping the counting of the ballot for 2 weeks, and then not counting the Madison District votes. And then I ran in 2014 to get the seat back. I was not successful in 2014 either, but I wound up still carrying the city of Buffalo. So each of those Senate races, I was able to carry the city of Buffalo both of those elections. And then looking forward to 2017, and a lot of people are talking about gentrification and how the East Side had not gotten their fair share, and how East Side had been ignored, how other parts of the city was being propped up and reinforced and redeveloped, and East Side was just the way it had been for the last 35, 40 years. Nothing was done. Roads weren't being paved. Houses were not being redeveloped. Resources were not being put into the community. People were asking for rehabilitation loans, and somehow they got detained, detailed, and so it was just a mess on the east side of Buffalo. And so when Mayor Brown put his hat in the ring for his third, I think his third term, um, he had a debate at ECC, and he said, "Well, Eastside has gotten its fair share of resources." And so I said, "Well, what do you mean Eastside gotten its fair share of resources? How can you say that? People are telling you that Eastside has not gotten its fair share. How can you say that?" Well, he says, "We got the medical corridor. That's on the east side of Buffalo." And so I just thought that was such a slap in the face to the people on the east side who have been struggling, who have been working, waiting for an opportunity for a uh, not a handout, but waiting for resources that been going to other parts of the city, like it did when Massey was mayor. You had Heraldor Avenue and Delaware Avenue and Elmwood Avenue being redeveloped and resources being put in those spots. And when you had Griffin and you had parts of South Buffalo being reinforced and Seneca Street being redeveloped, and then you have a mayor that's been there since 2005, and you don't have Jefferson Avenue street paved. The street had not been paved, I believe, only once, I think once, in the whole time that he's been there. And yet, Jefferson is only one block from his house. And so I said, you know what? That's an insult to tell us that when other people get resources that's going to directly benefit them, where they can get jobs, opportunity, they can open businesses. When Eastside asks for help and opportunity, we can tell we're being told you got the opportunity, you got the help, you got a first rate medical corridor that's going to take you when you're sick or dying, not when you need money to open the businesses or to take care of your house. So it infuriated me so much. I said, I'm throwing my head in the ring. And somebody said, well, you throw your head in the ring, then you're not going to be able to run for your seat for the legislature because there was both elections. It was the same year at the same time. And so I said, well, I thought about it and I said, you know what? If I can run for mayor and win, I know Eastside will get its fair share, and it won't be a medical corridor or anything that everybody else is using. It's going to something directly. It's going to help the people in the community on the east side of Buffalo. And so I said, well, we got Mark Schroeder's running and Mayor Brown's running. I'll just slide right up the middle. And that was my intention of just get enough votes because everybody was telling me to run. So I figured I had enough support and y'all get enough votes to be to win the election. But of course, it didn't happen. People who said they was going to vote for me and support me either stayed home or vote for one of the other two individuals.
Okay.
And so I just retired. April came in. She came in the first year they made her majority
Mhm.
leader, and the second year they made her chairman. And I said, "Well, I won't upset that because if I get back in, I know I would. They won't give me because I've been very vocal. They won't give me either of those positions, so I let her stay in those two positions. I wouldn't challenge her because I know that as long as she's there, she's going to deliver for the community. But when she was elected senator, that race was open, and I said, okay, well, I can throw my hat in the ring again, go back and finish what I didn't do in the first time around, or maybe add something that's been new. And a lot of things is I want to deal with is homelessness. I think there's a big program. We need to have a city county collaboration between the homelessness and homeless people in Buffalo. And those homeless people are not just people who are begging for money or who are drug addicts or whatever. They are families with mothers and children who are living in cars and getting up, going to school and going to work from living in a car or overstaying their welcome sometime in a neighbor's or relative's home, and kids are sleeping on pallets, on quilts in the living room and kitchen because they don't have a bed to sleep in or bedroom to sleep in. So I said, well, maybe I can do something about the homeless program and the lead program, which has been really worked on for 30 years. It still has not had any kind of resolution or any kind of results that should have been happening based on the money that's been spent. And when you have a city that sends back $1 million of lead money put in place to fight lead. You send $1 million back. Yeah, our children are dying and suffering from lead poisoning. I think it's a miss. It's a miss, and I'd like to see the county and the city do a collaboration together to work on this problem. It's a city infrastructural issue, but it's also a county issue because of the wellness of the people, and county government is geared towards helping people with health and resources that will make their lives have a better quality to it, as well as a more healthy living.
Okay. I do want to
And
bet.
so, and I just went perfect clear. That's why I got back into the race. That time I got back into the race, the seat was vacant. But
Okay.
they chose not to appoint me, and I chose not to get out because they did not appoint me.
Okay. All right. I want to backtrack just a little bit before we get off the political thing. Um, I had Charlie Fisher on, and we talked about this. There was a situation back when you got on the Common Council, and you both were there at the same time, and everybody called it the black majority. And
Right,
at a certain point, there was a downsizing that occurred. That was a really big story.
right.
Can you give us your version of what happened with that situation?
Well, the downsizing situation happened because Jim Pitts had relied on Rosemary Tempio to be that vote because at the time she wanted to become the majority leader in Buffalo County Council, but we had enough vote and we wanted Beverly Gray to be the majority leader. And so we went there because we had 7 out of 12 votes, and Beverly wanted to be majority leader as well. But because Jim Pitts had, I don't know, he had just promised it to Mary Rosemary Tempe or whatever it was. He convinced us that Beverly Gray needed a year or two under her belt before she became majority leader, which was not true because I just said Ava Bask on her second year became chairperson of the legislature, and her first year was majority leader. So it doesn't take any time if people put you in a position and steer you how to be successful. And so what was happening was, um, in order for the Tempero to get the majority leader, she needed Pitt's support and she needed our support to do that. And so we were convinced that Beverly needed an extra year in order to, and she'll get it the next time. And Pitts got promise from Latempio that he would support her, that she would support him for any vote that he needed, including running for the council president. So what happened was the law was in the legislation committee, and it was voted out of committee for a vote, and the vote was that we could do the downsizing. That got it on the on the council agenda for the downsizing. And the vote was we simply lost in the downsizing.
The Common Council casts a controversial vote concerning itself. The downsizing issue has drawn cries of racism from several of the city's African American leaders and residents. Channel 2's Ron Plants joins us live from City Hall with the results. And Ron, did it pass?
Yes, we can tell you it did, Vazzy. Despite last night's hearing, which you referred to, where hundreds packed this chamber, many in opposition, and despite today's last-minute calls for compromise and further discussions, the vote did come down as many expected it would for the 9-member district council, with the elimination of 3 at large and the council president's position. Here's how the vote went, along with the council president's strong feelings.
Councilmember Franzik. Yes. Councilmember Golombek. Yes. Councilmember Grant.
A racist city and a racist council? Absolutely not.
Councilmember Gray.
No.
Councilmember Latempio.
Yes.
Councilmember Martino.
Yes.
Council President Pitts. Nope. Councilmember Thompson.
No to Jim Crow.
And you know what I'm saying to the community? We're going to fight it. We're going to fight it legally. We're going to fight it politically. And I'm going to take the righteous indignation of the community. And we're going to organize. And we're going to fight this. Because the message has to be sent.
But we had people in the community who didn't see the value of having black legislators and having black elected officials. They didn't see the stuff that we had done, like bringing the money for Jefferson Avenue Library, that Meriwether Library now. bring money for the Tops Market, bring money for the Apollo. That would not have happened without that majority of 7 that was in place in 2001, 2002. And we have a community convinced that we're going to save money because we won't have an elected council president, that money would be saved. But that didn't pan out because we still have a council president. He makes $10,000 more, but the money that could have been in place to pay for the office of the council president was worth more than money because it was a black man in that position, and had he stayed, we would be able to did a whole lot more than we did by losing. And so the referendum passed very handily. It might have passed by landslide. I'm not really sure, but there's a lot of black people from our community who voted for that referendum. A lot of blacks who voted for the downsizing because they didn't know what we'd be losing if we had lost the opportunity to have a black majority.
Okay. Now to transition to more current times, you're part of the again. I have to be apologetic. I'm trying to remember the name. It's the East Side Parkways Coalition.
Yes,
Okay, okay, good. And
you
it's
did
about
well.
it's the 33, which has been a long-standing story. And I remember looking at a special on that was done on Channel 2, and
Right.
they did a segment on it on the history of the neighborhood that my mother and grandparents were in. And I had never they showed pictures that I had never even seen before, and I was absolutely blown away by them. Um, Talk to us about what got you involved with the and what's been going on with the East Side Parkways Coalition.
Well, what got involved? The East Side Parkways Coalition is an organization, a group of people simply became organized and got a 501c3 about a couple months ago. East Side Parkways Coalition was in place because of the issue of the 33. As you know, there's been a lot of talk about the 33 being intrusive. The Kensington Expressway is being intrusive. It never should have been built. It's ripped the community apart. Right in the middle of a vibrant, striving community, they put its concrete mass monstrosity there, only to get people from downtown to the airport. That was the sole purpose of 33, to move people from downtown to the airport and by via the airport to Cheektowaga, Lancaster, and points beyond. It was never intended to benefit the African American community that it divided. It was intended to get people a faster route from downtown to the suburban area where they were building their house and living, but they were living still working in Buffalo. So for those many years from 1965, when they started ripping it up and replacing it up until now, black folks have really suffered. There's the highest infant mortality. People living on the 33, where it is situated between Cherry Street and really East Delavan. That's part of the 33 before it turns to 198. Well, that portion has been documented having the highest rate of infant mortality, the highest rate of COPD in City of Buffalo, the highest rate of any illnesses can be related to breathing in toxin or living in a area where there's not clean air. And so, excuse me, there became an opportunity to have something done to the 33. Should we have a tunnel, or should we leave it like it is, or should we get rid of it completely? Well, the people who want it to get gotten rid of completely at first was the people like Stephanie Barber and Antoine Thompson and Clark Eden and other people. But when DOT told them in 2010 that we are going to uh, do the idea of a cap because we have 72,000 cars and we're not going to displace those cars. Those cars are still going to be allowed to go through the neighborhood that's been divided, and you're going to have to accept that or nothing. But what we do as a um, in consideration of the community, what we would do is we would put a cap. We would plant some trees. We can't plant them too tall. We can't get big trees because we got the tunnel that we got to worry about and weight of the soil and the tree growing. So we're gonna get these special trees that only grows a certain height root grows sideways in the soil, and we're gonna plant them in 3 feet of soil on top of the tunnel. So there was a concession that DOT made to the people who wanted the tunnel to be gone, but they also wanted to have trees. And so by them believing that a tunnel between Dodge Street and Sydney Street with trees on top that grows sideways and 3 feet of soil is better than having an expressway like it is right now. And so they went with that notion. So when the idea came that it was doable, money was set aside and to fund it, and they start holding required meetings from the community. Excuse me. Excuse me a second.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They found out. Oh, it sounded a lot better. They found out that people didn't want that tunnel. People who live on the Humble Parkway, who supposed to be benefiting from this tunnel cap situation, did not know it was happening and did not agree with it when they found out that it removal was one of the option. And so the DOT said, "Well, you have an option to remove the tunnel. That's on paper, but we made our mind up, more or less. We made our mind up. So we putting this option out there because it's required by law to offer you the option, but you're not going to get it. So don't even think about getting the thing removed." But we, and this small group of people who got together because of talking about the unfairness of having a project shoved down our throat without community participation and community engagement, and giving us the carrot, but snatching it back before we can even try to get it, and for lack of a better terminology. And so we said, well, how come we can't get it removed? If that's an option 10, and it's by law it's supposed to be driven by the community, and the community say they want option 10, the removal, why can't it be done? And they said, well, don't worry about it, just can't be done. And so we said, well, we don't believe in never, we don't believe in the word impossible, so we're going to do what we need to do. And so we started talking to the people that lived on Humboldt Parkway. We started asking the question, do you know they're going to put a tunnel over the expressway near your house? And they said, no, absolutely not. Do you know that at the ends of the tunnel, you will have more concentration of toxic air than you have right now, about 139%? And they said, absolutely not. We don't know that. And we want the tunnel gone. Fact is, we want the whole expressway gone because we have been living here for these 60 odd years. We have been inundated with noise. We can't sit outside in our backyards. We can't sit out on our front yard. We can't wash clothes and hang them on a line. We can't do anything because it's the toxin and the soot from the cars and the exhaust is messing our house up. We can't even watch a window because it's a lost cause. So we want the expressway gone. And we said, well, you know what? We do too. You know, we want the expressway gone. And that's one of the options. So we want them to make sure that they do the option. And we want to tell them that people are already sick and you have not done a study. So in order for change anything in this community, you need to have an EIS to see what harm was done by the expressway in the past. What is it presently doing? Is it still making people sick or killing people? Or what will be happening in the future if we allow that expressway to remain? And so we need an environmental impact statement. And that's why right now that the construction of the tunnel has been put on hold because the judge say, how can you spend $1.5 billion? Now it's $2 billion. How can you spend $1.5 billion on a tunnel? You have not say how bad the expressway had hurt people in the first place. How you gonna say the tunnel should be here when the tunnel might do more damage? How can you put a tunnel here when we got less cars going downtown? We got 20,000 less cars going downtown this year than it was 5 years ago. So there may not be need. There may not be a need for the tunnel and or the expressway, but you have not done studies, so we don't know. So I'm going to put a pause on this. I'm going to put it on hold until you do the environmental impact statement and come back to us. And if there's no harm done to the people, we'll see what's the best route for the people in the community. And so that's where we are right now, meeting to say that the expressway should be removed. We deserve the same kind of parkway as Bidwell Parkway. We deserve the same parkway as Jewett Parkway, Chapin
Mhm.
Parkway. You see the majestic trees, and we will be looking at Humble Parkway in the exact same way if we had not had the 33 to come through there. We would not have had we would not have had those concrete, and people would not have been deprived the air and calmness of trees and a tree lined street that they had when they bought their houses so many years ago. So the East Side Parkway Coalition saying we're working in the best interest of people. We have filed a lawsuit. There are 60 residents of Humboldt Parkway and the street that's around it that's filed a lawsuit saying that we want the expressway gone and we want the trees to be replanted so that our grandchildren, great grandchildren, will have benefit from these trees so many years from now. I won't be here to see it, but I can just imagine how it would be when 100 years from now people look and say, you know what, they did the right thing. They got rid of that highway, that expressway, and they put these trees back the way it should have been. It never should have been removed.
Yeah, that's I see that as something that never should have happened, especially after looking at images of what the neighborhood used to look like. But I don't want to keep you too much longer here. In closing, what things are you involved in? I know you're running for office and everything. What other things are you involved in the community, and how would you like to see this community in the next? What would be your vision for the community?
Now, define community, and I can be able to tell you. What is
Um,
your definition of community?
Community,
Yes.
the future of Buffalo's African American community, just from where it is right now. What let's say if you were like you ran for mayor at one time, what would have been your vision for as mayor for Buffalo?
Okay. Well, see, community. We say community. Me, I think about East Side as
East Side.
community.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, the East Side now. If you were to ask me 5 years ago, East Side, I would think about African Americans. But now, because of the Bangladeshi coming in, and there's 70,000 of individuals have come, and I think 30,000 families, and they're buying houses, and they're opening businesses, and they're staying in the community. Unlike the Arab American been owning those businesses, majority of black stores since 1980, but they never ingrained themselves to the community. They never lived, and if they lived in the community, it was only the male, the female was in the community, but not of the community. She didn't associate with anybody. You very seldom see them shopping. See the kids getting off the bus, going to a school, and that's it. You didn't see them intermixing and mingling with the community. But because Bangladesh have come in with a mindset that not only are we going to open businesses in the community, we're going to be part of the community. You know, they bring in the chickens, they bring in the vegetables, they bring the farm. So they're part of the community. So when you say community now, and if you say East Side community, I can't say African American because that's not the makeup. But if you say about uh, economics, I would say we have lost economically. If you're looking at infrastructure, you're looking at businesses, we don't own that. Houses is fastly uh, becoming not owned by African American. Culturally, I think we still got a strong point. We got all our cultural uh, organizations, so we're strong right there. In not for profit, we're strong there. In neighborhood public safety, we're strong there with many organizations. But if you say community, it doesn't ring the way it used to ring because I'm sorry, because a lot of our African American are renting in outer ring suburb like Chitawaga, Tonawanda, Orchard Park. They're not in Buffalo. So Buffalo is a changing community. And I think African American, East Side community, these are words that might have to be redefined because it doesn't mean the same as it meant 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I'll not answer your question because uh our strongest we have of that connection is our culture institution, the culture community. That is the strongest we have because we have Economics, we don't have it, and we have we got oversaturation of, I think, of wellness, people going into wellness occupation when they should just combine and not have so many, because people don't know where to go. There's a lot of places that they can go to get help for counseling and for mental health, but there's very few places they can go to help to improve the economic condition of the community. So for counseling services and cultural festivals and cultural stuff, we're really on par. We might be even stronger than we were several years ago. But economic and home ownership, we're losing vastly. We're losing that greatly, and we're really building up the outer ring suburbs. As those people become empty nesters and sell their homes and move down Florida or move to a condo in Buffalo or a apartment in Buffalo, those houses have to be filled, and the only people coming to Buffalo, of the 20,000, I think we had 20,000 increase in our population. It didn't come from people coming from other state or people that's growing through birth. It's come through the migration of the Bangladesh community from New York City and other places to Buffalo. So of the increase last year, when they did the last census, and our mayor was really bragging about people coming in, they are coming in, and they're coming in on the east side, and they're coming in from another culture that is becoming more dominant as we become less relevant. And I hate to say that, but we are becoming less relevant because we're not putting ourselves in position. There have been a decrease in people voting. There's been a decrease in people getting registered to vote. And that vote is more, the most powerful thing between a dollar and a vote. That vote is worth 10 times more than any amount of dollars you can get. That one vote could change the world. And so I tell people, get registered. And the Bangladesh is getting registered. They have filled out 10,000 voter registration applications. I heard from one guy did it, who owns a cultural organization, the Bangladesh community. They have registered 10,000 of people, and we're to have people telling us, I don't want to get registered because nothing's going to change for me. What I'm going to get out of it. At the same time, he's getting his Medicaid. He's getting the HEAP for his family. He's getting the food stamp for his family. He's getting all the benefit that comes from people voting in candidates who are going to make sure these things are kept for we Americans. And that's what Congress has to fight right now, because the people who want to take rights away from immigrants and from African American, black and brown people, they're voting. And we're bragging and proud that we're not voting. And it's getting worse and worse. And if you go to any place, just go to any place on election. I don't know about where you live, but in Buffalo, if you go to a polling place on election day, you can see those 40 and up. And you're really going to see those 60s and 70s, 80s people out there voting and sometimes coming in wheelchair. But the young people who are in their 30s and below to 18, they're not voting. And they're not being shown at the poll. And this has been happening since, I said, in the last 10 years, it has been happening. And then when they're voting, Doug, they're voting blank. They're not voting for a party. And so during primary, when the most important time to select the candidate to run to represent you in the general election, that position is selected in the primary in June. But if you're not registered to be a Democrat or Republican or whatever, you can't vote until November. So you let other people choose who's going to represent you by them voting in June, and you're not voting yourself.
Betty Jean Grant, it's been an honor to have had you. Thank you for that extensive history of your Buffalo story. And we'd like to thank you for being a part of the Buffalo History Channel.
And I thank you for inviting me. And the History Channel is about the best thing to happen in a long time.
Thank you.